guess I'm going to be holding the phone since it's in portrait mode. Okay. Good afternoon, radio fans. Big Al here on this Friday, August 29th, 2025, and welcome back to another look at radio ratings from select markets from across the country. And today we'll be looking at markets 7, 8, and 9, as we'll be looking at the July ratings for Atlanta, Georgia, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Marble Sky, my 100 sub, is in the house. What's up? Before we begin, two things. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. And a big shout out to everyone who has subscribed. I reached 100 subs the other night. And Marble Sky pushed me to 100. So thank you so much, everyone. Now, let's dive into the July 2025 radio ratings from across the country. And we'll start with the number 7 market in the nation, and that's Atlanta, Georgia. And it looks like Cox Media Group has a stranglehold at the top of the ratings, as 4 of their stations are in the top 7. And they also occupy the top 2 spots and 3 of the top 4 spots. So we'll begin with classic rock station 97.1 The River, WSRV, which is down from 8.2 to 7.5, but still maintains its lead in Atlanta with a cumulative audience of 718,700. In a very close second is their sister news talk station, 95.5 WSB, which is heard on WSB AM 750 and on WSBB 95.5. They slipped a little bit from 7.1 to 7.0, but still a solid second. Cumulative audience of 459,400. Coming in third place is Urban One's adult R&B station, Magic 107.5 and 97.5, which is heard on WAMJ 107.5 and WUMJ 97.5. They're up more than half a point, from 6.3 to 6.9, and a cumulative audience of 546,500, so Magic takes third. Fourth place is the competing adult R&B station in Atlanta, and that's Cox Media Group's KISS 104.1 WALR FM, up from 6.3 to 6.5 with a cumulative audience of 553,500. Meanwhile, jumping up to fifth place is Educational Media Foundation's 106.7 K-Love, WAKL, which plays contemporary Christian music. They jumped up more than a point, from 4.6 to 5.8 to take the number 5 spot. And they have a cumulative audience of 308,200. And I think this is the highest that 106.7 has been in the ratings in quite some time, if not ever. Coming in sixth place is Odyssey Hip Hop Station V103 WVEE. They dropped from 5.9 to 5.6 with a cumulative audience of 626,400. Seventh place is Cox Media Group's Ace Adult Contemporary Station, B98.5 WSB FM, down from 5.5 to 5.4, and a cumulative audience of 957,900, which is the highest cumulative audience of any Atlanta radio station. In eighth place, you have Urban One Gospel Station, Praise 102.5 WPZE, jumping from 3.2 to 3.8, and a cumulative audience of 240,700. They tied for 8th place with Cumulus Top 40 Station Q99.7 WWWQ, rising from 3.4 to 3.8, and a cumulative audience of 509,400. So both Praise 102.5 and Q99.7 are tied for 8th place. Rounding out the top 10 is iHeart Country Station 94.9 The Bull, WUBL, inching up from 3.6 to 3.5, and a cumulative audience of 429,000. And they pretty much switched spots with the next station up, because WSTR Star 94, this is a rhythmic adult contemporary station from Odyssey, fell from 3.6 to 3.5 with a cumulative audience of 590,200. So that puts Star 94 in 11th place. Coming in at number 12 is EMF's Christian Worship Station 104.7 Air 1 WAIA FM, which also slipped from 3.5 to 3.4 with a cumulative audience of 236,600. Next up is the NPR news station in Atlanta, 90.1 WABE FM from Atlanta Public Schools. They're up from 3.1 to 3.3 with a cumulative audience of 270,800. Next is Cumulus Country Station, New Country 101.5 WKHX, which is actually tied with its sister classic alternative station 99X, which is WNNX FM. Both stations took a dive down to 2.9. New Country 101.5 posted a 3.5 in June, but dropped down to 2.9, and they have a cumulative audience of 376,100, while 99X slipped from 3.2 to 2.9 with a cumulative audience of 330,900. Next up is iHeartRadio Hip Hop Station 96.1 The Beat, WRDG, whose decline continues. They fall from 3.4 to 2.7 with a cumulative audience of 378,400. And right below them is another competing hip-hop station, JDJ Communications Streets 94.5, which is heard on WWSZ 1420 AM and on a translator on 94.5 FM, and two outlining, full power stations, one in Calhoun, the other in Woodbury. This station dropped from 2.4 to 2.3 with a cumulative audience of 215,700. Next is Odyssey Sports Station 92.9 The Game, WZGC, which is the Atlanta Falcons and Atlanta Hawks flagship station. They're off from 2.6 to 2.2 with a cumulative audience of 205,400. Next is Urban One Hip Hop Station, Hot 107.9 WHTA. They're also down from 2.2 to 2.0 with a cumulative audience of 334,400. That's followed by Dickey Broadcasting Sports Station, The Fan, 680 and 93.7, which is heard on WCNN 680 AM and an Atlanta translator on 93.7 FM. This is the Atlanta Braves flagship station. They fell half a point from 2.2 to 1.7 and a cumulative audience of 162,500. Next is Cumulus Classic Hip Hop Station OG 97.9, heard on WWWQHD3. They hold steady at a 1.3 with a cumulative audience of 239,400. Up next is the Joy FM 93.3 and 102.1, which is heard in Metro Atlanta on WVFJ 93.3 and is simulcast in the Macon Warner Robins area on 102.1. This station is owned by Radio Training Network. They're down from 1.3 to 1.2 with a cumulative audience of 130,800. All right, then you have 4 stations tied, including Urban One's R&B Oldies station, Classics 1029, which is heard on WAMJ-HD2, iHeartRadio's Spanish contemporary station, Zeta 105.7 WBZY, Clark Atlanta University Jazz Station, Jazz 91.9 WCLK, and Davis Broadcasting's regional Mexican station, La Raza 102.3 and 107.1, heard on WLKQ FM. All 4 stations posted a 1.0 in the July ratings for Atlanta. Classics 1029 is down from 1.3 in June to 1.0 with a cumulative audience of 146,700. Zeta 105.7 is up from 0.7 to 1.0 and a cumulative audience of 109,100. Jazz 91.9 holds steady at 1.0 with a cumulative audience of 80,300. And La Raza is up from 0.7 to 1.0 and a cumulative audience of 77,900. Next, you have Core Radio's 87.7 The Vibe, which plays adult R&B. This station identifies as WTBS FM on 87.7. They're down from 0.8 to 0.7 with a cumulative audience of 86,400. Next is iHeartRadio's top 40 station, Power 105.3 WWPW, which is up from 0.4 to 0.6. I think this station has struggled since they and the Beat swapped frequencies back in June, I think. Power 105.3 has a cumulative audience of 158,600. Then you have Georgia State University's WRAS FM, which is 88.5 GPB Atlanta, which broadcasts Georgia Public Broadcasting programming during the day, and Album 88, which is an adult album alternative station which airs at night and on weekends. They're down from 0.6 to 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 70,300. Next is Dickey Broadcasting's conservative talker Extra 106.3, which is heard on WFOM AM 1230 and on a Marietta translator at 106.3 FM. They're down from 0.3 to 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 27,000. Then you have the online streams of both V103 and 92.9 The Game, both registering at a 0.2. Next is Davis Broadcasting's Spanish Hot AC station, Mega 96.5 and 1290, which is WCHK AM. They hold steady at a 0.1 and a cumulative audience of 22,100. Salem Media Group's conservative talk station, AM 920, The Answer, WGKA, is down from 0.2 to 0.1 with a cumulative audience of only 12,900. Then you've got Davis Broadcasting Smooth Jazz 101.1, which is heard on WJZA 1310, with a translator station in Winder, Georgia on 101.1. They're also down from 0.2 to 0.1, with a cumulative audience of 24,200. Next up, you have V103 International, which plays reggae music for the most part on WVEE's HD2 subchannel. And then you have the news talk format of 1380 WAOK, which is not only heard on 1380 AM, but also on WVEE HD3. Both stations come in at a 0.1, V103 International has a cumulative audience of 24,800. And 1380 WAOK, at least on WVEE HD3, has a cumulative audience of 1,900. The actual station itself on 1380 did not register, and they have a cumulative audience of 6,500. Also not registering is El Patron 96.7 WBZW, which is a regional Mexican station from iHeartRadio, with a cumulative audience of 13,200. And Star 94.1 HD2, which is heard on WSCR HD2 from Odyssey. That's a classic hit station. They have a cumulative audience of 11,200. So there's the Atlanta market. Now let's move on to our nation's capital, the number 8 radio market in the country, and that's Washington, D.C. If my Chromebook will cooperate. Okay. Okay, I don't know what's up with my Chromebook. I may have to restart this thing. Alright, just bear with me for a second. I'm going to restart this because this is... Yep. Okay, I'm going to Alright, give me just a couple minutes while I restart my Chromebook because apparently it froze up on me. But yeah, I got a lot of content coming out today. We'll do some more radio ratings checks. After this video, we'll look at the Boston radio market in particular and 2 others. And I'm also going to be reworking my NFL power rankings that I did last week because of the Micah Parsons trade from the Cowboys to the Packers. I'm going to do a little shuffling of the I'm going to do a little reshuffling of the teams. Alright, this shouldn't take as long. Okay, we're back up. We're back up. Do not disturb. Okay, we are back up. Now we can move on to the number 8 radio market, which is Washington, D.C. And leading the charge this month in July is Hubbard News Station WTOP Radio. Heard in Washington, D.C. on WTOP FM 103.5. In Maryland on 103.9 WTLP FM, and in Northern Virginia on WWWT FM 107.7. And they took a big jump this month, moving from 11.7 to 13.1 to take over the DC top spot. They have a cumulative audience of 826,900. The number 1 station in Washington in June fell to second place, and they took a hard dive. And that's American University's WAMU 88.5. This is the local NPR station in Washington. They fell from 12.7 to 11.2 with a cumulative audience of 532,000. In third place is Howard University's 96.3 WHUR, which plays adult R&B. They're up from 5.7 to 5.8 and a cumulative audience of 530,700. In fourth place, you have Cumulus News and Conservative Talker 105.9 WMAL FM. They're up from 4.1 to 4.7 with a cumulative audience of 142,200. In fifth place is iHeartRadio's adult contemporary station 97.1 WASH FM, or as the locals say, WASH FM. They're down from 5.1 to 4.6 with a cumulative audience of 748,800. Next up is iHeartRadio's sister alternative rock station, DC 101, WWDC. Down from 5.1 to 4.4, cumulative audience of 478,200. So that puts DC 101 in sixth place. Coming in at number 7 is Atlantic Gateway Communications contemporary Christian station WGTS 91.9. Jumping from a 3.4 to a 3.8 and a cumulative audience of 240,000. Coming in at number 8 is Classical station Classical WETA 90.9 from the Greater Washington Educational Telecommunications Association. This is the consortium that also owns main PBS station WETA TV Channel 26. WETA FM is up from 3.3 to 3.6 with a cumulative audience of 294,000. So apparently they love classical music in our nation's capital. In ninth place is iHeartRadio's classic rocker and Washington Commanders flagship Big 100 WBIG FM. Rising from 3.1 to 3.4, cumulative audience of 539,400. And I'm pretty sure those numbers are about to go up with Commanders football beginning next week. Or rather, next weekend. They are tied for ninth place with Odyssey's Spanish contemporary station El Zol 107.9 WLZL FM, jumping almost a whole point from 2.6 to 3.4, and a cumulative audience of 271,800 to force a ninth place tie with Big 100. Outside of the top 10, you have Urban One's adult R&B station Magic 102.3 and 92.7, which is WMMJ 102.3 in the immediate Washington, D.C. area, and WDCJ 92.7 in some of the northern and eastern, or rather the southern and eastern suburbs of D.C. in Maryland. They're up from a 2.9 to a 3.3 and a cumulative audience of 376,300. In 12th place is their sister hip-hop station, 93.9 WKYS, up from 2.3 to 3.2, cumulative audience of 411,800. In a tie for 13th place, you have Odyssey Classic Hit Station, 94.7 The Drive, WIAD, and iHeart Country Station, 98.7 WMZQ. Both sitting at a 3.0. The Drive took a nosedive, falling from 4.6 to 3.0, and a cumulative audience of 556,900. This ties them with WMZQ, which went from a 3.2 to a 3.0, and a cumulative audience of 293,200. So those two stations are tied for 13th. In 15th is iHeartRadio's sister top 40 station, Hot 99.5 WIHT, which took a slight decline from 2.8 to 2.7, Cumulative audience of 531,500. And then you have Odyssey hip hop station WPGC 95.5, which is usually in the top 10 in the DC ratings, but not this time, as they took a massive drop from 3.4 to 2.6. Cumulative audience of 411,800. Next is Urban One Gospel Station, Praise 104.1 WPRS, up from 2.1 to 2.4, with a cumulative audience of 181,700. That's followed by Hubbard's regional Mexican station, La Mera Mera 1050 WBQH, up from 1.0 to 1.6, cumulative audience of 78,400. That's followed by Odyssey Sports Station 106.7 The Fan WJFK FM, holding steady at a 1.0, and a cumulative audience of 134,400 for the Washington Nationals and Washington Capitals flagship. Its sister business news station, Bloomberg 99.1 WDCH, is down from 1.1 to 0.9, and a cumulative audience of 110,300. The local K-Love station in Washington, D.C. is WLVW 107.3, which is up from 0.6 to 0.9, with a cumulative audience of 141,500. Then you have Nueva Network's Spanish contemporary station, Que Onda DC WDCN FM, which I think is 87.7. They hold steady at a 0.6 and a cumulative audience of 94,700. Then you have an out-of-town country station, Connoisseur Media's 93.3 WFLS out of Fredericksburg. They're up from 0.4 to 0.5. with a cumulative audience of 106,200. Joey is in the house. Oh, it's Anna. What's up, Anna? How are you? This is then followed by the online stream of 106.7 The Fan, which dropped from 1.3 to 0.5. Then you have some more out-of-town stations after that. WAFY-FM, which is Key 103, a hot AC station from Manning Broadcasting. They're up from 0.3 to 0.4 and a cumulative audience of 72,500. Then it's 92.5 Air 1 from EMF's WAIW-FM, which is up from 0.3 to 0.4 as well. Cumulative audience of 36,300. Now, I think this station airs to the far western portions of the DC market. Centennial Broadcasting's hot AC station WBQB or B101.5 registers in the DC market for the first time at a 0.3. Cumulative audience of 78,700. Then back in Washington, you have C-SPAN Radio, which is heard on WCSP FM 90.1. They're up from 0.2 to 0.3 and a cumulative audience of 54,600. And then Urban One's hip-hop station, 92Q Jams, which is WERQ-FM out of Baltimore, also registers in DC at a 0.3. Cumulative audience of 86,200. That's followed by the FM's online stream of WPGC 95.5 at a 0.2. Also at a 0.2 is Hubbard Variety Station 820 The Gamut, which is WSHE-AM. They're at a 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 27,200. Urban One Sports Station, the Team 980 and 95.9, which is WTEM, is down from 0.3 to 0.2. Cumulative audience of 36,800. Manning Broadcasting's 1069 The Eagle WWEG, which plays classic hits, is at a 0.2 as well, with a cumulative audience of 64,900. Next is the Bluegrass format, Bluegrass Country, heard on American University's WAMU HD2. They're down from 0.2 to 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 12,900. Next is Costa Media's regional Mexican station La Pantera, 100.7 and 1220 AM, which is heard on WFAX 1220 AM out of Fairfax, Virginia, and on a translator at 100.7. They register for the first time at 0.1, cumulative audience of 8,200. Next, you got the online stream of 94.7 The Drive, also at a 0.1. Next is Baltimore-based Christian AC station 95.1 Bright FM WRBS, which is down from 0.2 to 0.1. There we go. And they have a cumulative audience of 43,000, or rather 46,300. Next is the online stream of the Team 980 and 95.9, also at a 0.1. And there you have Classic Country Station 93.5 and 100.5 Max Country from Manning Broadcasting's WWEG HD3, registering at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 8,100. Among the stations not registering in the DC market for July include Hubbard Broadcasting's Federal News Network, which is WFED 1500 AM. Howard University's Quiet Storm station on WHUR HD2. Odyssey's Channel 2, which is an LGBTQ plus Top 40 and Dance Music station on WIAD HD2. The online stream of Elzol 107.9, also 94.3 K-Love WLZV, which I think is airing in Northern Virginia. WSBN 630, or rather ESPN 630 DC from Cumulus. And Baltimore's adult R&B station Magic 95.9 WWIN FM. Alright, one more to look at in this video, and that is the Philadelphia market. The number 9 market in the country. And it looks like the two rock stations from Beasley Broadcast Group continue to be 1-2 in the Philly market, led by classic rocker 1029 WMGK. Saw a slight increase from 8.3 to 8.5 and a cumulative audience of 823,200. Its sister active rocker 93.3 WMMR also saw a little bump in July, going from 6.9 up to 7.2, with a cumulative audience of 625,500. Coming in third is Odyssey Sports Station Sports Radio 94 WIP, dropping from 6.7 to 6.4, but still a solid third for the Philadelphia Eagles and Philadelphia Phillies flagship. They have a cumulative audience of 616,300. Coming in at number 4 is iHeartRadio's Adult R&B, 105.3 WDAS FM, down from 5.7 to 5.5 with a cumulative audience of 549,900. Next is Odyssey Adult Contemporary Station, B101.1 WBEB FM, down from 5.5 to 5.3, cumulative audience of 1,073,800. That's enough to put them in the top 5, just ahead of its sister all news station, KYW News Radio 1060 and 103.9, heard on KYW AM 1060, and WPHI FM 103.9. They're down from 5.3 to 5.0 with a cumulative audience of 497,300. Next up is WHYY Incorporated, WHYY FM, which is the local NPR news station in Philly. They're up from 4.1 to 4.5 with a cumulative audience of 400,000, which puts them, I think, 7th. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, they are 7th. In 8th place is Adult Album Alternative Non-Commercial Station 88.5 WXPN from the University of Pennsylvania. They're up from 3.6 to 4.3 with a cumulative audience of 272,400. 9th place is Beasley Broadcast Group Country Station 92.5 WXCU, which dropped from 5.0 to 4.2, nearly a point down, and a cumulative audience of 597,900. Next is its sister adult hit station, WBEN 95.7 Ben FM, which is up from 3.8 to 4.1. No, I'm sorry. Alright, again, Ben FM is up from 3.8 to 4.1 with a cumulative audience of 706,800. Which is 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Yeah, that's enough to crack the top 10. Nearly a point clear of number 11, which is Urban One R&B Oldies Station, Classics 107.9 WPPZ FM. They're up from 2.8 to 3.2 at a cumulative audience of 313,200. In 12th place is Odyssey's classic hit station, Big 98.1 WOGL, up from 2.9 to 3.1, cumulative audience of 664,500. In 13th place is iHeartRadio's alternative rocker, Alt 104.5 WRFF, down from 3.4 to 3.0, cumulative audience of 459,900. Its sister hip-hop station, Power 99 WUSL, is up from 2.7 to 2.8, with a cumulative audience of 445,400. EMF's 106.9 K-Love WKVP is next at 2.6, up from 2.4, cumulative audience of 186,600. iHeartRadio's top 40 station, Q102 WIOQ, is down from 2.5 back to 2.3, and a cumulative audience of 615,800. Next is the online stream of Sports Radio 94 WIP at a 2.0, which is actually down from June. Urban One's 100.3 R&B, which is WRNB FM, is down from 2.3 to 2.0 with a cumulative audience of 331,800. Next is iHeartRadio's Spanish top 40 station, Rumba 106.1 WUMR, up from 1.7 to 1.8 and a cumulative audience of 232,000. Then there's a tie with a pair of Odyssey stations. Their conservative talker, Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, and their hot AC station, the new 96.5 WTDY, are both at a 1.7. WPHT holds steady at 1.7 with a cumulative audience of 87,000, while the new 96.5 is down from 1.9 to 1.7 and a cumulative audience of 556,200. Next up is the online stream of KYW News Radio 1060 and 103.9. followed by Beasley Broadcast Group's sports station 97.5 The Fanatic WPEN, which is steady at a 1.5 and a cumulative audience of 225,000. This would be the 76ers and Flyers flagship station. Next is Temple University's classical and jazz station WRTI 90.1, down from a 1.9 to a 1.5, cumulative audience of 118,100. So this actually ties them with 97.5 The Fanatic and the online stream of KYW News Radio. Town Square Media's top 40 station 94.5 PST, which is WPST-FM out of Trenton. They're up from 1.0 to 1.1, cumulative audience of 265,500. Then you have Forever Media's top 40 station 93.7 WSTW out of Wilmington, Delaware. They're down from 1.1 to 1.0 and a cumulative audience of 269,400. Town Square Media's News Talk and Classic Hits hybrid New Jersey 101.5 WKXW, another Trenton station, is up from 0.7 to 0.8 and a cumulative audience of 117,500. VM Broadcasting Spanish tropical station La Calle 99.9, which is heard on WHAT 1340 AM and on an FM translator in Philly at 99.9, holds steady at a 0.4. They have a cumulative audience of 42,700. Then you have out-of-town country station Cat Country 107.3, which is Town Square owned WPUR FM. They're up from 0.2 to 0.4 with a cumulative audience of 57,000. Then you have the online streams of both Talk Radio 1210 WPHT at a 0.3 and New Jersey 101.5 WKXW at a 0.2. Also at a 0.2 is Town Square Media's Hot AC station, Sojo 104.9 WSJL, which holds steady at a 0.2. Cumulative audience of 41,100. Then you have Odyssey's Channel Q, which is the LGBTQ aimed top 40 and CHR and dance station. They're up from 0.1 to 0.2. with a cumulative audience of 12,200. Now, Channel Q in Philadelphia is heard locally on WTDY HD2. All right, Philadelphia's local Air 1 station, 89.5 Air 1 WYPA out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, is at a 0.2 as well. Cumulative audience of 27,800. And then at the bottom, you have Town Square Media's adult contemporary station, Light 96.9 WFPG, at 0.1 and a cumulative audience of 51,600. Then you have BIN 610, which is owned by Beasley Broadcast Group, but operated by iHeartRadio. That's WTEL. They're at a 0.1. with a cumulative audience of 17,500. Forever Media Country Station 103.7 and 96.9 WXCY out of Havre de Grace, Florida, or Havre de Grace, Maryland, I should say, is down from 0.2 to 0.1 and a cumulative audience of 27,000. Not registering in Philadelphia for July is the online stream of Beasley Broadcast Group's WJBR, which is an adult contemporary station heard on WBEN HD2. The online stream of the University of Pennsylvania's WXPN HD2, which plays AAA. Also, iHeart Sports Station and Fox Sports affiliate 1480 The Gambler WDAS AM. and the FM simulcast of Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, which is heard on WOGL HD3. Neither of those stations or streams registered in July. Okay, that is it for this edition of Radio Ratings from across the country, as we took a look at the July numbers for Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. Next up, we'll look at Boston, Seattle, and Miami. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching, and happy listening. Peace out.